Hi everyone. So as promised, I'm uploading another Audacity tutorial. And what I'd like to do is kind of run through the different effects that you have at your disposal for your soundscapes. Like I said, unfortunately, we won't really be able to hear what the effects sound like. So you're going to have to kind of apply them on your own and explore them on your own so you can actually hear what they sound like. Because I have no way of recording my audio output. Unfortunately, right now I don't have that ability. That being said, I'm going to run through the effects and kind of describe their effects and what they actually do. Some of them are more straightforward than others. And I will apply them to the audio track so you can kind of see what happens to the actual waveform when I apply it. So first, we obviously need some audio. So I'm going to add that. What should I add? Here we go. I'm going to add this. It's a pretty loud file. So if you see, it's very loud. Look at how it's peaking, right? That's just my own fault. I made a mistake, so I need to lower the gain since it's peaking. So now it's not peaking, we're in a decent range, just above minus 12 dB. If you see it in the red, you never want your audio in the red. And if it is, then you need to go in and adjust your levels. So what effects do I have available to me to start manipulating my audio? We're going to be manipulating audio in the same way that you were manipulating the image, but just this time it's through a sonic world. So where do I find these effects? So if you go up here to your top toolbar, you'll see a drop-down menu called Effect, and these are your plugins. These are your effect plugins that they're called plugins because with usually an analog, you will plug your sound source into an effects pedal. And so they call them plugins because even though they're virtual, it's mimicking an analog process of plugging in a sound source into a pedal or into an effects rack. But here we're just going to be applying effects to the audio. And it's fairly simple in how we can apply an effect. You can either select, remember you click here to select the entire track, you select your whole track, and you go to effect, and then you click on your effect and you adjust the parameters, and it will apply the effect to your waveform and to your audio. Alternatively, you can affect just a certain portion of your audio. So with the select tool, you can select a portion. Here I'm going to select 7 seconds to 15 seconds, and I could just apply an effect to this area. But this can cause an issue because then this section will sound much different than the rest of it. An alternative thing that you can do is copy this section, and then you can create a new track. You can add a new track, create a stereo track, and you have that selection copied, and then you can just click in this new track and paste it by pressing Command V, and then you can just apply it to this section without affecting the rest of your audio. And so to create a new track, you go up to Tracks, you go to Add New, and you add a stereo track because this is a stereo file. A stereo file means that there's a left and a right channel. If there was only one channel, then it would be a mono track. So to add the track, I'll just do that again, and you go to Tracks, Add New Stereo track. And so here I have a whole new empty track, almost like if you're video editing and you add a track. This is just an audio track. And so if I want to copy a section of a piece of audio, I select that area, I press Command C, I click in the new track, and I press Command V. And there we go, it's pasted right here. And I can move this around by going up to your time shift tool. Again, I call it the move tool because that's essentially what you're doing. And you click on the piece of audio and you can move it around the timeline. Let's just move it back to the beginning. Snaps there with the little yellow line. It means it's snapping to the beginning or to an edit point. Okay, so let's say I just want to work on this little selection here. Well, then I'm going to solo this track, remember? So I don't have to listen to the rest of the stuff, but I just want to work on this area and this selection here. So now I can start applying effects to this. So I got to make sure I select the whole track, select this piece of audio, and I go up to Effect. And what do we have available to us? Well, there's a lot in this drop-down menu, and we're not going to go over everything, but I will go over a couple of them and kind of explain what they do. So again, some of them are more straightforward than others. So the first thing here that might be of interest to you is your change pitch. Now we know what pitch is, right? It's a different frequency, and it doesn't change the tempo. So something that has a higher frequency will sound like this, and something with a lower frequency will sound like this. So you're changing the pitch frequency to either be have a high pitch or a low pitch. And to do this, let's start at the middle, which is 0. We're not changing the pitch at all here. So if I were to click OK, nothing would change because we're not adding any percentage of a change. If I want to go, there are things here where you can actually change the actual notes, change the pitch to an actual note. But what I usually do is if I want to go to a high frequency, I'll just move this slider up, and you see the percentage is going up to a much higher frequency. And if I want it to be a lower frequency, I'll just bring the slider down to the left. So let's try doing a higher pitch. And here I can actually press preview before it actually applies it to the sound, because once it's applied, the only way we can undo it is if we press Command Z, and it's kind of applied permanently to the audio file and to the track. So if I want to preview it first, that's usually a good idea, so you can hear if you like the pitch that it's at. So I'll do that right now. So it sounds really weird because it's not meant to be that pitch, but let's just apply it and see what happens. So there we apply it, and now look at the waveform. It's just so filled with distortion because we've affected the pitch and the frequency. So things are really, really going wild because we're adding a lot of effects to it. Okay, so what would the next effect that we might be able to add be? Well, I can go into effects, and the next one right under is the change speed. This can be interesting to you because as we change the speed, then the pitch also changes, right? As we're changing the speed, then the vibrations in the air from the sound vibrate either quicker or slower, and the slower the vibrations are moving means it's a lower pitch, and the faster it's moving, if it's a much higher speed, then the higher the pitch will be. So this will change your speed, it will change your tempo, and it will change your pitch because those are always linked together. So let's say I want to have it, you can actually make it like really, really fast, kind of like chipmunk sounding, or we'll make it really slow, and then you'll hear what that sounds like. So I'm almost adding slow motion to this audio, but it's going to affect the pitch, so the pitch is going to be lowered, and the tempo is going to be lowered as well. And so I'm going to apply that, and as you see, the audio file extends and gets longer because I've changed the speed of the audio file. And so let's listen to that. I mean, again, I'm not sure if you can hear this. So if you can hear that, and it's pretty ghostly and mechanical, but it's slow, and it's extended the audio file, and it's distorted it because it's extending, and it's already been distorted because we've changed the pitch as well. So we're just hearing those distortions, but in a longer period of time. But it's also lowered the pitch because I affected the speed. Now some of these we're going to skip over, but you might want to explore them on your own. Adding distortion, let's see what that does. Now we all know what distortion is. This will just completely distort your audio. And you have some presets here that you can try, or you can just affect the distortion on your own. I'm not going to actually apply this to the audio, but you can explore this on your own and see what it does. But it will just completely distort your audio, and it acts a lot like a distortion pedal for a guitar, right? Where it adds noise and it adds kind of more frequency to the audio, and so then it ends up becoming a distorted piece of audio. It doesn't affect the speed, it doesn't affect anything else, it's just distorting the actual audio itself. What else do we have after distortion? We have echo, and here you can affect the delay time, right? So an echo, if we recall, is, we all know what an echo is, it's how long the sound is reflected back at us off of an object. So you can add echo, and you can get an echo effect. And the decay is how long it takes for that bounce back effect to dissipate. We're not going to add it in, but I suggest that you kind of experiment with all of these on just like one of your audio files and just kind of see what each one does and how it affects the actual audio. So let's cancel that. So two important things that I'm going to show you, well, they're one, but just kind of very similar, is your fade in and your fade out. Now this is great for how you don't want your audio to just end on a cut, to just abruptly end. You want it to kind of fade out and end very smoothly. Now how do we add a fade out? Well, you need to select the end of your audio and where you want that fade to begin. Because if I select the entire audio track, then my fade will begin at the beginning of the selection, which is at the beginning of the audio track. But if you wanted to just fade out in the last 5 seconds or something, well, then I'm going to select those 5 seconds from 22 seconds to 27 seconds. So if I select that area and I go to Effect and then I do Fade Out, it will add a fade out in that selection, and the audio will slowly fade. Alternatively, I can do the same thing if I select the beginning and I go to Effect and I click Fade In, and there we go, we have the exact same thing. So as you see at the beginning and at the end of your audio file, the audio fades in and the audio fades out. So we have this smooth opening and this smooth ending of your soundscape. And this is something you should be adding to all of your soundscapes so that we don't have this abrupt ending to your audio file. We want it to be smooth, and we want to be able to be eased into your audio piece. Okay, so now that we've done that, and this is something that you should probably just add in at the end, but I'm just going through each effect one by one, but you want to add your fade in, fade out at the end, because you don't want to be affecting the fade ins and fade outs. You want the fade in and fade out to kind of be on top of everything, right? So affect everything first, put effects on it, and then add fades when those are the very, very last things that you can add to your audio file. Okay, so we're going to skip a lot of this stuff, and I'm going to talk about reversing your audio. So what is reversing audio? I'm just going to undo the fades. So reversing your audio will just actually play your audio backwards. It'll play the selection backwards. So if I click reverse, you see the waveform just basically completely flips. And now the audio will sound backwards, and if you do this yourself, you'll hear the difference in audio, and it sometimes sounds pretty ghostly and horrific, as if you're scratching a record backwards on a record player. It has a very creepy effect, and if you're not going for that type of vibe, I wouldn't recommend reversing your audio. But the natural decay and the natural fade in the audio that is played is reversed. So you have this very strange effect where audio is not fading out on its own and dissipating on its own. Instead, it's coming in constantly. The audio is constantly rising rather than dissipating. The audio effect of how audio dissipates and sound dissipates in the air is reversed. And so it becomes this very dreamlike, surreal state. There's a filmmaker, David Lynch, has a lot of scenes that are just played in reverse, and he has the actors act in reverse, and then it's flipped around when the actual footage is reversed in editing. We have this very strange, surreal space that is somewhat forwards, but also in reverse. It's a very strange world. So you're always usually creating a very surreal world when you reverse stuff. But that's a very simple effect to add. If you just click the reverse, and it will just automatically apply it. There's another thing here called pause stretch, and this is related to to changing your speed. But what pause stretch does is it preserves your pitch. It uses an algorithm to preserve your pitch without much distortion. So it will stretch your audio, right? We're stretching it to a much longer time, and you choose the factor that you want to stretch it to. And this is your time resolution, which again, you want to mess around with the parameters so that you find something that you like. You can preview it, you can undo it after you do it, but let's just do a stretch factor of 80. Actually, no, that's a little too long. 40. The time resolution of 1 second. And so this will lengthen our audio, this will slow down our audio, but it will preserve the pitch. And it adds a kind of ghostly effect to it as well. I'm not sure exactly how the algorithm works, but it preserves a lot of the original quality in the audio without much distortion. Now there's already a lot of distortion in this audio file that I'm using, so we're going to hear that distortion, but it preserves a lot of the quality that was there, even though we're extending it and slowing it down considerably. So if I apply this, we're going to see it's just going to take a bit of time to process, because it's running through a lot of information. And this might be something, if you want to create a more surreal space, you might want to apply pulse stretch to some audio effects to kind of create a more ethereal feeling, because you'll see it adds an echo, it adds a delay, it adds this feeling, this spacey feeling to your audio. So as you see again, just like the speed change, it makes my audio clip much longer, but since it makes it way longer, it's now 18 minutes. So we're going from about 40 seconds to 18 minutes. And so if I click somewhere and I press play, it stretches out the audio and it slows down the audio to such a degree, but it preserves a lot of the original qualities, and it adds a lot of delay and it adds a lot of echo to it, so that it feels as if it's a lot more ethereal, and it actually doesn't lose a lot of the quality that you would normally lose if you're just slowing things down or speeding things up, and it kind of avoids a lot of the distortion that comes with it. It's a pretty cool effect, and it's a kind of like a very easy way to create some drone, if that's something you want to explore. Layering different drones over each other that were created with pulse stretch, and then reversing some things. I don't know, you go in whatever direction you want, but it's a very simple and effective tool to create these new spaces and manipulate audio. Okay, so I'm going to go into effects again, and so you could add reverb, but reverb is generally better for dialogue or for musical instruments. If you want to make an instrument sound like it's in a space, you're mimicking the reverb of a room, right? Which is how much the audio bounces around all around us and is reflected and absorbed by the walls. So if you have voice and you want it to sound like it's in a hall, you can add reverb to that audio, and it will somewhat. I mean, it's not this effect through Audacity is not the best, so you're going to hear the kind of distortion that comes with adding a very simple reverb to it, but it will sound like it's coming from a room. It'll mimic the reverb of certain rooms, but it's a very simple one without, and it doesn't have the amount of depth as other ones might have, because they work off of better algorithms. Now the rest I'm not really going to touch on. I feel like that's probably enough for you to use and to explore for now, and to kind of mess around with for now. But if you want to go deep into the effects, it's very simple in how you can apply effects to audio. All you have to do, let's unmute this, all you have to do is make a selection or apply it to your entire track. And to select the track, you click on the information portion of your track here. You go up to effect and you choose the effect you want, and you can change the parameters and then select OK, and it applies that effect to your audio. The ones that I showed you are probably the best to use to create some sort of strange, surreal landscape. But if you're trying to just create a realistic space, you might not be using many effects. You're really going to be focusing on layering different sounds on top of each other, and you'll probably have many different tracks, that will come down to the detail in your placement of the tracks and the levels of your tracks, just working with the levels and how they blend in with one another based on how loud or quiet they are in relation to the space that you're trying to mimic or create with your audio and soundscape. So that's it for this tutorial. I'll probably upload a few more, but this was just kind of a basic look at a few of the effects in Audacity. Unfortunately, I couldn't record the audio, so you're going to have to see how these work on your own time and apply them to your own audio or whatever audio you find. So great. Enjoy.